Hi, Year 5. So I'm going to explain what we're doing in history, and we are going to be finding a little bit out about Alfred the Great, who was a famous Anglo-Saxon king. So I'm just going to share the screen. Okay, so who was Alfred the Great, and what made Alfred great? That's what we're going to be answering today. So have a look at the pictures and just see what you think. What do those pictures suggest about Alfred? So spend a few minutes having a look at those pictures and coming up with an answer about what you think those pictures tell us about his character, and maybe about what made him Alfred the Great as opposed to Alfred the something else. Okay, so hopefully you've had a little bit of time to think about that. This one shows, he's a classic sort of king. He's got jewels on his crown. He's very rich. That looks like it's made of gold. So hopefully you noticed that. He's got bright colours that would have been very expensive in those days because the dyes used were very precious. And it looks like he's got some kind of fur, which would have been again something quite expensive, and showed that he was a very rich man, very powerful probably. This shows Alfred the warrior, so maybe he was not just a great king, but he was a great warrior. He's got a sword in hand here, and he's probably off fighting the Vikings somewhere, isn't he? When we look a little bit more into his history, you'll find out a little bit more about that. But that's him as a warrior king, fending off and making sure his kingdom is safe. This is a bit more of a thoughtful one. This is probably Alfred the thinker, maybe Alfred the intelligent king that made good decisions. I think that's more thoughtful. And this looks like Alfred. This was something that you'd probably find in a church or a cathedral, and he was a very religious man. And this kind of shows, I think, that he's sort of loved by God, and was following his instructions really. So that's what I get out of the pictures. Hope you get a few things as well. Okay, let's move on to so that was task 1. Let's look at task 2. Oh, we've got some questions first. Right. His father was Athelwulf, King of Wessex. So he gained he got the crown through succession, it's called. So if you get it through your family, so you're next in line. But he wasn't next in line. He had 4 older brothers, which made it unlikely for him to be king. Why is it unlikely, if you have 4 older brothers, for you to be king? Have a think about that and come up with an answer. Pause if you can't think. You've got an answer. Okay, so all his brothers would have been kings before him. So if he was 4 older brothers, if Alfred became king, it means that all 4 of his older brothers died. So how might his brothers have died? Think about the world back in the Anglo-Saxon times, and how do you think they would have died? Pause the video and collect your thoughts about that. Okay, so how might his brother died? They were fighting a very, very ferocious foe in the Vikings. So he might have died. They might have died in battle. Another thing they might have died in is that healthcare wasn't brilliant back then. They didn't have all the medicines I think we would have had. So I think it would have been quite common for people to have big families and for some of those siblings to die. So maybe some of them died when they were younger, and some of them died in battle. So that's something that maybe you can go out and find out if you've got the resources to do that. Okay, let's look at the next activity. So the next activity is, I have got lots of facts about Alfred here. Now, what you have to do is look at the evidence in those facts, cut them out, and stick them on a timeline. So down here, you see the timeline. Arrow's pointing the wrong way. But so you look for what would come first. So is there something that he's a boy, maybe? Have a look. Is there one that he's young? Yeah. So put them in chronological order. The earliest first and the latest over here. So AD means Anno Domini, year of our Lord. So so that's 875 after Christ, really. Yeah. Yeah. So put them all in order, and then what you have to do, leave some space around them, because what I would like you to do is read them, and then once you put them all in order, can you write a little bit of a note about what that tells us about Alfred, and what that does that help, all those things put together, does that make him Alfred the Great? Okay, hope you enjoy the lesson. Look forward to seeing lots and lots of timelines and lots of lovely work on Alfred the Great. Enjoy.